Dear Brother Knights, while he was in high school, a friend of mine was kicked out of the neighborhood drugstore. Apparently, when he was younger, he got into all kinds of mischief with the owner of the institution. He stole an ice cream cone once. Another occasion, he upset the owner's dog, causing him to wreak havoc during one of the busiest times of the year. Now, the drugstore owner had it, and he kicked the young lad out, telling him never to return. Well, 12 years later, the one-time boy was visiting his hometown, and don't you know, he'd been ordained a priest. His mom sent him over to fetch something at the same drugstore, and as he walked in, full Roman collar and all, the owner peered over the counter and said, "I thought I told you to get out." You know, prophets are still rejected today, even in our midst. Sometimes we might be the ones who reject the prophets. We're closed to the insights of others, insights that can open our lives to new and very exciting possibilities. Sometimes we might feel like the rejected prophet. Our abilities, our gifts, our message, they all seem overlooked. Jesus begins preaching on the Sabbath in his hometown synagogue. And if you read St. Mark's Gospel, Mark doesn't tell us about what he was preaching about, but St. Luke's Gospel does. Jesus was telling them that the prophecy that he was reading in front of them was being fulfilled in their midst. There was no celebration that day, though. Everybody had their own negative things to say. But don't we know this guy and his family? Isn't he just the carpenter's son? And the people of Jesus' hometown rebelled against the idea that someone so familiar to them could possibly fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah. And as a result, Jesus doesn't work as many miracles there, and his community misses out. They miss out on some potentially great prophecy. I think sometimes that happens to us in our relationship with Jesus too. We become complacent. We convince ourselves that we know everything that we need to know about Christ and about the faith, and in the end, that really becomes an obstacle for allowing God's Spirit to permeate our minds and our hearts to hear the message of salvation that Jesus is so willing to give. I think the same thing happens to us still today too. There are prophets all around us, but we often reject them. Just like the people of Jesus' hometown, the people of Israel, we have to be committed to the covenant, and even when the prophet is sent in our midst, we still sometimes reject him. Or we might be like St. Paul. We realize that to be prophets, we must abandon that which gets in our way. Or we might be like the people of Jesus' hometown. When a prophecy is fulfilled in our midst, we might be tempted to banish the prophet. You know, God might have a prophet sitting right next to you in church, or in your KC council chamber, or on your living room couch, or even in the restaurant. How are you going to react to that prophet's message? Today might be the day for conversion, if only you listen to his message that's often disguised in many forms. So keep those eyes open. You never want to miss those prophets that are all around us. So here is your monthly challenge, Brother Knights. No one of us is perfect. And neither are any of our Knights of Columbus councils. The Knights of Columbus are filled with sinners, and we all seek conversion every day. But our faithful brethren, too, are called to be prophetic voices in our world. It's no secret that our fraternal order needs new members. And oftentimes, a simple invitation is all it takes for a man to consider joining the fraternal order. Personal invitation is what works best. And if these men see your faith in action, imagine the fruit that this witness will bear. So this month, I challenge you to have one conversation with someone you know who is not a member of the Knights of Columbus. Invite them to be a part of our fraternal order. Tell them what the Knights have done to help you, especially on your journey of faith. And here is our fraternal cornerstone for the month. Prophets are not always welcome in their native place, and Jesus knew much about this from his first sermon in his home synagogue. The call to knighthood is a difficult one. It's fraught with challenges. Why? Well, we attempt to be countercultural as we spread the truth of the gospel message. Knights of Columbus should be prepared to be rejected as they preach the message that God values all human life, as they live out fraternity, as they practice charity. Sometimes knights, too, though, need to be challenged. Are you willing to speak to your consuls honestly about the challenges that you face and that we all face as a fraternal order?